the podcast exclusively for association executives and members. Each week, Jeff interviews association executives about their victories, igniting new ideas for you to create greater value for your members. And now, Jeff Tippett.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jeff Tippett, and I'm grateful that you joined us for today's episode of Victory by Association. Today's show is brought to you by Persuasion Publishers. Persuasion Publishers disrupts the traditional model of publishing. We empower you to get your story from idea to bookshelf in just 2 months with a high-quality product at an affordable cost. Learn more at persuasionpublishers.com and check out our show notes for the link. Today, I'm excited to welcome my guest, Sonia Stetzler. Sonia, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jeff.
So, in full disclosure here, Sonia and I just had an opportunity to chat just a little bit before the show, and I'm already fired up about Sonia's work and the things that we're going to talk about. So hang on, because today is going to be a great conversation. She's speaking to my heart in all of this. But before we get into all this, tell me just high level a little bit about your association background, and I think what's a little bit different from your perspective than a lot of my guests.
Sure. I am an executive communications coach and consultant, and I work with individuals as well as organizations to effectively connect with their clients through their communication skills.
That's fantastic. And I think one of the beauties here too is that she comes from the board perspective instead of just the association executive. So I think we're going to see something totally different here. Well, Sonia, if you don't mind, tell us something interesting or unique about you, something different, something that somebody wouldn't find on the website or your LinkedIn profile. Just give us a little insight into something interesting about you.
Wow. Well, my background is Lebanese. I have a large extended family, and when we gather for holidays and for, there's probably at least 50 of us.
Wow.
Yeah, so we all bring a covered dish, so there's not a burden on the host or hostess who has opened up their home, usually a cousin or an aunt or someone. So huge extended family, which I absolutely love.
That's fantastic. Well, if this is like a covered dish of Lebanese food, send me the invite next time and I will show up and be part of that for sure. Well, we've had a great discussion before the show today, and I really want to pick up there because Sonia is really speaking to something that I am passionate about, and I think a lot of people just don't get. And this is a mindset shift to turn this around because oftentimes we're from our perspective and what we're thinking. Sonia, kick us off a little bit here about your thoughts and some of this pre-show stuff we were talking about.
Oh, absolutely, Jeff. So my experience has been on boards. As a coach and as a former healthcare provider, I always have gotten involved in my associations, professional associations, and as a way to give back, have been either appointed or sought positions on the board so I could help with the direction of where the organization was going and to help in my capacity as a coach and a consultant and, whatever capacity that I could serve. And what I realized was that, and I also do have a sales background, but I'm also certified in design thinking. Not many people are design thinkers, and design thinking is all about looking at the customer experience. How are they experiencing your organization? And I find that fascinating. One of the most instructive exercises that I've ever been through my design thinking experience has been to map the customer journey. What's it like for them from the minute they fill out that application or the minute they go to your website?
Yes.
And when they come into the organization, what is the welcome like? Are they even welcomed? What are they looking for? What are they seeking? And many organizations, and certainly organizations where I've been on the board, we've experienced a drop in membership. And as a board, we're sitting around like, why are they leaving? Well, why not ask our members what they're looking for, what they're seeking? And what's interesting, and most of the organizations that I am associated with or have been on the board, people are really needing a place to belong. Here we have a whole gathering of like-minded people who carry the same or in the same profession, maybe they need continuing education credits or they need, but my personal philosophy is that people want connection.
Hmm.
This is how we're hardwired.
Yeah,
So what are we doing to provide opportunities for connection?
absolutely. Well, talk to us a little bit here because this is fascinating to talk about like that customer experience, the customer journey. What are some of the things that you have learned in helping to map this out for associations and for organizations? What are some of the pitfalls and things that are happening to users that maybe the organization doesn't even understand or hasn't even thought of? Are there any patterns or things that you have
Mhm.
seen in your mapping there that might could help an association executive think through this process?
Sure, Jeff. And one of the things is from the get-go, how welcoming are you to people who join an organization? My background actually started as a dietitian, and on the board of the welcoming committee, what we started was actually when people joined, um, we got on the telephone and welcomed them. It
Hmm.
was amazing, the appreciation and the connections that were made by just calling a phone number, because that's on the application. People
Yeah.
felt so like they belonged. Like, yes, I really want to be a part of this. Oh, yes,
Yeah.
that's really cool. Nobody's ever called me before.
Yeah.
And this was with I was on the board, and there were about 3,000 members within this organization, and it was big. But what were we doing as leadership to help make our members feel welcomed? And that, yes, they belonged. And yes, this was a place that we wanted to have them meet other people, like-minded people.
Yes.
Um, so that was one of the first steps that we took with this particular board that I was on, to get people engaged from the get-go.
Absolutely. And to me, like I hear that, I think, wow, that really stands out. One of the organizations I just recently joined, they did a very similar thing. And I joined lots of other associations where that just didn't happen. You just kind of joined, and that meant you got a newsletter in the email
Mhm.
on Fridays, and that was all that you got. But when the person who helps membership reached out to me, and we had a great conversation. It was about a 30-minute conversation. Her response was, you really need to talk to our president, our executive director, because he would love to hear your story and learn more about you. So sure, she probably kind of pre-qualifies some of these calls, but at the same time, like they made the call and they made an effort, and then he scheduled a time to speak with me as well. And I did feel welcome. To your point there, I did feel welcome to show up for my first time. I felt like I kind of already knew them when I went to my first luncheon that they were hosting. So yeah, absolutely. Anything else stands out to you?
Well, yes, I was on another board with another, again, within the dietetic profession. This was about dietitians in business and industry and communications, and people, again, we're hardwired for belonging, and we're hardwired for connection. And what we started, and it was a little bit rocky at first, we called it a happy hour. We would open up a Zoom. Um, we could hold up to 100 people, not 100 people flooded the calls, but we left it open, so that we called it happy hour. It was on an afternoon. Of course, this is a national organization, so we had to have it in the evening so that could accommodate all time zones.
Sure.
And we would have some, people drop in and say hello, and really weren't, I think, meeting our objective of getting people to really connect until we started bringing in a guest expert. Now, because a common interest in this group was communications and business, I reached out to people that I knew, and I'm a member of the National Speakers Association. So people like Linda Swindling, who writes and talks about negotiations, we had her on, and the speaker would speak for only maybe 20 to 30 minutes to get the conversation rolling or to deliver some content. And then for the next 30 minutes, I would facilitate discussion and, how can we implement what Linda talked about? We started having people coming in droves because they were getting some expert content, but also the discussion afterwards really helped cement the learning. And it ended up being a really a success because we had, again, thousands of people, even though we only could accommodate so many, but yet it was a vehicle that allowed for connection and for people to feel engaged. That we were offering something that they wanted and needed.
Absolutely. So Sonia, I greatly appreciate all that you said, and especially this need for connection. And I think it's not just the connection; it's that really good content. It's the connection and the content happening there, because we can have friends everywhere. So there's a lot of the connections that can happen there. But if you can do the connection and you can bring in really good content, it seems like a great mix. I had something that was just spontaneous this week. I was speaking for a statewide association, and I did my hour keynote. After that, they had me to go in for a 2-hour breakout session, and we kind of drilled down and walked through all that. When I wrapped up everything, there was a group of about 15 from the breakout session that had pulled chairs around in a circle. And they're like, hey, would you come join us? And so I went and I sat down with them. And for another 30 minutes, maybe 45 minutes, we just talked through problems that they were going through and things that they were experiencing, areas where they needed help and guidance. And I was able to do just some consulting. That's just part of my speaking fee. Fantastic. What else can we do? And the conversation was amazing. People even dropped their defenses and started talking about areas where they had failed and areas where they had just like totally dropped the ball and were asking for help. How do I get this back on track? And it was such a safe environment for us to have those conversations. I drove off from that site thinking, oh my gosh, this is one of my best experiences ever, because we had what you just described. We had connection and we had great content as well.
Yes, yes. And people don't realize this too, that when we have these deeper conversations, we're actually changing body chemistry. This is part of what is called conversational intelligence, where you can raise someone's oxytocin, which is that really feel-good hormone that you were just describing, yay, yay, by what we say and how we say it. Or what I see in a lot of organizations too is you can raise cortisol, which is your stress hormone, and that is what causes people to disengage, distrust, and eventually leave.
Yeah. And there are, associations are my number one target when I go out and speak. And I am seeing like this combination. I'm seeing some that are just really crushing it right now. They're growing, they're meeting needs. And I see others that are really struggling. And I think you've given us a couple of really good tips here that these association executives can take and use. As we bring this thing on in and start heading toward a wrap here, Sonia, one final question for you here. Well, actually two, but any last comment for association executives that are listening? And I'm especially curious, like from your background being on the board, like from your perspective and what you've seen, any tips that you could offer to our association executives from the board's perspective of what they could do to serve even better? Anything that you've observed?
I would say be very clear about what you stand for, what your mission is. How are you serving the members who are in your association? And secondly, I would reach out and ask your members. Certainly, professional organizations have to have guidelines. They have certain tasks that they need to carry out. But ask the members, because really the gold is in getting feedback and getting what the members want, and that will enable you to be successful.
100% agree with you. It's just sometimes, I don't know if we're just scared, if we're afraid to get that feedback or see people saying, oh, you're not doing a good job. I don't know what it is, but sometimes it's really hard to put ourselves out there and say, hey, just give me the feedback. Like, what's going well? What's not going well? What can we change? What can we do better? Do you have needs we're not meeting? Like, do you have a vision that we haven't thought of yet? Like, share that with us. So sometimes that is a struggle. We're a little bit afraid sometimes, I think, to get the feedback from people as to what it will be. But generally speaking, I found that it's extremely helpful to help you chart out things. Well, Sonia, this has been a fantastic conversation. You've given us some great nuggets here to help associations, executives in their work. And it sounds like you're running a great consulting business as well, helping associations and helping the people to map these things out. Let me ask you this final question here. How's the best way for people to find you? If they want to reach out and get some information, more information about you, or learn more about your services and what you do, how's the best way for people to find you?
They can find me online at soniastetzler.com. That's my website. And my favorite social media platform is LinkedIn. So
fantastic.
Just put my name in there and I'll pop right up.
Hey, and we'll include that in the show notes for everyone. Sonia, thank you so much. You've been a jewel here today. I really appreciate this conversation. And thank you all for listening and being a part of today's show. And I'll see you next week as we discover another victory by association.
You've been listening to Victory by Association with Jeff Tippett. If you've enjoyed, please subscribe, rate, and review. Be sure to check out the show notes for links relating to this episode. For information about becoming a sponsor or guest, please email podcast@jefftippett.com.